evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome all of you back to another National Anthem reaction video, where tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we travel once again to Oceania, where we now cover New Zealand's National Anthem. And it's, again, very interesting how I think like a lot of the Oceanic national anthems from Fiji, Australia, and now we're up to New Zealand, and they all have something very interesting, is that the titles are almost kind of identical, because we go from God Bless Fiji, Advance Australia Fair, and now God Defend New Zealand. And I don't necessarily know if this is just a thing because a lot of because of how these nations were discovered and how they were colonized and stuff like that. But there is a lot to be said about just about, like, if I had more time on my hands to go into things like the history and the life and the discovery of places courtesy of James Cook, then absolutely I would. But as far as I could work out, there's actually surprisingly not a lot about New Zealand I could say I 100% know. Apart from that, it has 700 small islands, and its capital city is Wellington. And apparently it also takes something close to 27 hours just to get there. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it's even further away than Australia, so it also makes sense. And actually, for the sake of just wanted to see a little bit more, I kind of wanted to go into just a tiny bit more, just to give you guys something to work with. I mean, there's a lot about, again, Australia. I'm like really like clutching at straws for knowledge, but I'm sure, again, one of the great things about doing these sorts of videos anyway is the fact that we can always find out more in some way. Now, I do know, of course, their famous rugby team, also known as the All Blacks, are some of the most renowned, feared rugby players in the world, which is ironic as well, because, to be honest, a lot of the Oceanic countries as well have some extremely fierce rugby players. Well, rugby teams generally. Australia, Fiji, Samoa. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if Tonga technically has that sort of same prestige attached to it, or it could even be more renowned for its cricket as well. I mean, the Kiwis love their cricket, so do the Australians. Fiji, I'm not too sure. The West Indies, I'm not entirely sure if the West Indies is part of the Oceanic continent, but I'm sure we'll find out. Now, also, one of the things we may as well go on with this is the fact that it is one of the 3 countries in the world that has, technically, that is true as well. New Zealand has 2 official national anthems. The first is God Save the Queen and God Defend New Zealand. And for reasons that should become pretty obvious from this point onwards, is that we're going to go with God Defend New Zealand, only because I'll make my own feelings known about the constitutional monarchy national anthem of God Save, well, now it's referred to as God Save the King. And outside of that, I'm like, I honestly don't really have a great deal else to share, I suppose, apart from its geographical locations are sort of like divided from cliff sides like this to beaches to ranges as huge as this. I mean, you know what? If you want to give yourself something to do before bed, spend your time counting sheep. You know what I mean? And of course, again, trekking across glaciers and the 11-mile beach, which is only 8 miles in length, which is like, work your head around that one. And of course, again, spectacular scenery with, again, mountaintops. That's beautiful. And let me see if I can get like a really big one for you guys. Where's well, first of all, that looks superb, doesn't it? I don't know if that's meant to be like it looks a bit big for a bowling green. It looks more like a cricket ground, a cricket training ground. And of course, its main cities, of course, include Auckland, Christchurch, Wellington, Hamilton, and Tauranga. And more than half the population of New Zealand live in just those 4 cities, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the only other nation that approaches this in terms of densely populated cities per population would be Austria, because is it something like a third of the population of Austria live in Vienna, or it could be less than that, but I'm pretty sure it's something closer to this, which is pretty interesting about how so much of one nation, well, one city, and could almost have the entire country living in it. It's not, again, like in Belgium, where it could be spread around from Antwerp to Brussels, etc., etc. It's nowhere the same case in England for certain, and definitely even less so than it would be in Scotland. Again, maybe it's due to things like population and stuff like that. The only other things, again, I can feel like I can really say about New Zealand for what they are worth is the fact that a large part of the Lord of the Rings trilogy were filmed in New Zealand. And if you want to talk about, and as far as TV shows are concerned, 20 years of Power Rangers was actually filmed all across New Zealand, starting with Ninja Storm in 2003 and leading up to Cosmic Fury as far as, basically this year. In fact, there was even a pretty interesting news story that they did on one of their TV stations about a news report of the production of Power Rangers leaving New Zealand. And it was actually quite a big story because Power Rangers, for one reason, Saban's Power Rangers, for one reason and another, actually brought in a lot of work for actors and actresses all throughout New Zealand, several throughout Australia, those who were coming from, again, the likes of the islands of Samoa and Tonga and Fiji, and a lot of people who were looking to take part. And it's extremely fascinating, almost from like a production point of view, to go into stories like this. And even the fact that it brought in quite a lot for its local economy. So there's some very interesting stories going on with that. And if I had all the time in the world to go into them even further, then I absolutely would. And depending on what the translation for this video is going to be like, because I'm in two minds about, again, how I'm going to come across like doing a translation for this video. But then again, since some of these countries do have English as the native language anyway, it might not be 100% necessary to do that. But I'll see what I can do. I kind of feel like it would be rude not to at least do something kind of special, or at least kind of different. And with all that being said and done, please rise, ladies and gentlemen, for the national anthem of New Zealand. Just turn this up a little bit, because to be honest, again, I like the fact that, again, from a musical from a compositional point of view, there's a lot to like about the Oceanic national anthem, so it deserves that much. Here we go again.
of nations at thy feet, in the bonds of love we meet. Hear our voices, we entreat. God, defend our free land. God, Pacific's triple star, from the shelves of strife and war, make her praises heard afar. God, defend New Zealand.
Okay, I'm going to be the first to say that actually, you know what? Not talking about about native languages would have to be obviously rebuked right now. A lot of other things besides this is that the woman, this is again the same thing for Advanced Australian Fair. This thing to this woman, like the best way I could describe God Defend New Zealand is like, it's like a prayer with the band orchestrated as like the wings of angels carrying the message to heaven. It feels like one of the most sincere and important anthems for this small nation, because it really brings home to you just about how nice and just how vibrant and strong, and how that again, it's almost like the soul of the hackers literally all orchestrated in this woman's voice, because it just bursts out of her mouth. And I wonder if that was like the intention of how God Defend New Zealand was meant to be composed, as though you were just letting your entire soul into this voice, into what you're singing. And I will say as well, I have only just found out is that it's in Maori as well, and I didn't necessarily know for one reason or other that actually Maori was a large part of New Zealand as far as like language, because I always had the assumption that Maori had more to do with I don't necessarily know it specifically. I did a band as well who were specifically was done in Maori before. God Almighty! If only I can remember what it was, and I can't even remember if it was specific to any nation in particular. It might have been New Zealand, but I can't really put my finger on it, unfortunately. However, one thing is for certain is that and again, it's sort of, again, I don't want to go into this whole thing about like national identity and character, but just reflective of national anthems, because it's not 100% the case, but I always go under the idea that if you want to, like, just as a representation of where you come from and what you people want to be seen as by the rest of the world, then I'd say, again, put your heart and your soul into it. And I've even seen somebody comment down here about what they thought of it. Prosperous and progressive country, developed country, nice systems, lack of corruption, safe and peaceful country, clean country, friendly people, nice, very beautiful nature, high freedom, very good governance, smart and disciplined people. And then somebody, what a nice country that never exists. And there's quite a lot of people who do it here as well. But then again, there's a lot of... I will say, again, I almost feel like I don't particularly know whatsoever to say when it comes to things like this, because I've never really come across a single national anthem throughout all of this that I can say I honestly like more than any other, or say that any is particularly bad. There's no real case of that anywhere. But I just love the variety and the way they do it, and how people come together and they all appreciate the things that goes on around the world. It's a very nice experience, and that's the thing about doing all of this. It's that doing these videos is such a nice and refreshing idea. The fact is that believe it or not, despite hard trying, man has yet succeeded in planting the seeds of evil everywhere. Because if you can look, you could find places in the world where evil has yet to strike, and there are places where things like praying for the end of war and prosperity and praying for others to keep your homes and loved ones safe isn't just extinct because people seem to think the idea that if you believe in God, then you're completely backwards and in denial. People, again, let people get on with it, and if they're not doing anything wrong, then what's the issue? People just need to learn to just, like, let people get on with it. Let them lead their own lives. And I hope God continues to defend New Zealand. That's what I hope he does. Are you hearing that? Defend New Zealand, God. Please. Thank you. Got my approval there. So anyway, I hope all of you guys have enjoyed this reaction video to God Defend New Zealand. Please make sure to leave all your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below and what you guys felt of God Defend New Zealand for yourselves. And I cannot wait to see all of you guys again in the next video. Take care and bye-bye for now.